Alexander Drake was coming. They called him the Ice King of Wall Street. At 34, he'd built Drake Industries from the ashes of his father's bankruptcy into a billion-dollar empire that touched everything from real estate to tech. But his public success masked a darker truth. Alexander didn't just make money in boardrooms. He controlled half the underground diamond trade on the East Coast, a secret known only to those who lived in shadows. The chandeliers of the Meridian Grand sparkled like captured starlight. Manhattan's elite filled the ballroom, a sea of designer gowns, tailored tuxedos, and champagne flutes that caught the light like liquid gold. Tonight wasn't just another charity gala. Tonight was the night everyone whispered about but few understood. Every year at this gala, Alexander did something that made headlines and broke hearts. He chose one woman to accompany him for the evening. Just one. The selected woman would disappear into his world for a night, emerge with a generous donation to her chosen charity, and never speak of what happened. Rumors swirled. Some said he was a perfect gentleman. Others whispered darker things. But no woman ever told the truth. The music swelled. The crowd parted. Alexander Drake entered. 6'3", dark hair swept back perfectly, jaw carved like marble, eyes the color of winter frost. His custom Tom Ford tuxedo fit like a second skin. When he moved, the room held its breath. Power radiated from him. Not the borrowed confidence of inherited wealth, but the bone-deep certainty of someone who'd clawed his way up from nothing and crushed everyone who stood in his way. Backstage, in a cramped storage room filled with extra linens and forgotten decorations, Zara Thompson tried to make herself invisible. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was a seamstress for Etoile events. The company contracted to provide last-minute wardrobe repairs. Her boss, Mrs. Chun, had called in sick, and Zara, desperate for the overtime pay, had volunteered to cover the shift. At 26, Zara had learned to navigate New York by staying quiet, working hard and never drawing attention. She'd immigrated from Kenya 5 years ago with her younger sister Amara, chasing the American dream that seemed to recede further with every rent increase. Her days blurred together. Early morning shifts at the seamstress shop, afternoon classes at community college, evening shifts cleaning offices. Every dollar saved went into 2 envelopes. One for Amara's education, one for the experimental treatment their mother needed back home. The bass from the ballroom music vibrated through the walls. Zara's hands trembled slightly as she threaded her needle, repairing a tear in a socialite's Versace gown. She could hear the master of ceremonies introducing Alexander Drake, the crowd's collective intake of breath. She'd seen his photo in the business section of discarded newspapers. Cold eyes, colder smile. The kind of man who lived in a different universe from people like her. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC's voice boomed. Mr. Drake will now make his selection for this evening's honored guest. Zara had just bitten off the thread when her supervisor, Maria, burst through the door. Zara, we need you out front. One of the models needs an emergency hem adjustment. But I'm not dressed. Zara gestured at her simple black work dress, her natural hair pulled back in a practical bun, her face free of makeup. No time. Just stay near the side entrance. Be quick and invisible. Zara grabbed her sewing kit and followed Maria through the service corridor. They emerged at the edge of the ballroom, hidden behind a decorative column. The lights were blinding. The air thick with expensive perfume and ambition. Alexander Drake stood center stage, his gaze sweeping the room like a predator selecting prey. Supermodels smiled hopefully. Heiresses adjusted their jewelry. Actresses tilted their chins at calculated angles. His eyes passed over all of them and landed on Zara. She froze. The sewing kit slipped from her fingers, spilling thread and scissors onto the marble floor. Time stopped. Alexander's expression didn't change. Still cold, still unreadable, but something flickered in those winter frost eyes. Recognition? Curiosity? She couldn't tell. He raised one hand and pointed directly at her. You. His voice cut through the sudden silence. In the black dress by the column. The spotlight swung toward her. Zara's heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. 1,000 faces turned in her direction. Beautiful faces full of shock, confusion, and barely concealed rage. Come here, Alexander commanded softly. Zara's legs moved before her brain caught up. She walked toward him on shaking knees, aware of every whisper, every judgmental stare, every camera flash that would ensure this humiliation followed her forever. When she reached him, she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Up close he was even more intimidating, all sharp edges and controlled power. His cologne was subtle, expensive, something with notes of cedar and smoke. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Zara Thompson," she whispered. "Well, Zara Thompson," he extended his arm. "Will you join me for the evening?" She wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to flee back to her safe, invisible existence. But she thought of the overtime pay she desperately needed, of Maria's warning look from across the room, of her mother's medical bills. "Yes," she heard herself say. Alexander's lips curved into something that might have been a smile on a warmer man. He guided her through the ballroom, his hand at the small of her back, as the crowd parted in stunned silence. Zara Thompson had just been chosen by the Ice King. Her life would never be the same. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of Drake Tower, 50 stories above Manhattan, with floor-to-ceiling windows that turned the city into a glittering carpet of lights. Zara had ridden up in the private elevator in complete silence, Alexander standing across from her, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. When the doors opened, she stepped into a space that belonged in architectural magazines. Minimalist furniture in shades of gray and black. Modern art that probably cost more than her annual salary. A bar that glowed with amber backlight. And everywhere, windows revealing the city sprawling below like Alexander owned it. Which in many ways he did. "Drink?" he asked, moving to the bar. "Water, please." Zara's throat was dry. He poured her sparkling water in a crystal glass, fixed himself whiskey, and gestured to the leather sofa. She sat carefully, back straight, hands folded. Alexander didn't sit beside her. Instead, he walked to the window, backlit by the city, his silhouette dark and imposing. "You're not what I expected," he said after a long silence. "I'm sorry," Zara replied automatically. "I wasn't supposed to be visible. I'm just the seamstress. There was a mix-up. Don't apologize." His voice was sharp. "I chose you precisely because you weren't trying to be chosen." She didn't know how to respond to that. He turned to face her. "Tell me about yourself, Zara Thompson. The real story, not the elevator pitch." Something in his tone, not quite kind, but genuinely curious, made her answer honestly. "I came from Nairobi 5 years ago with my sister. I work 3 jobs to send money home for my mother's treatment. I'm studying business administration at night school. I live in a 5th-floor walk-up in Queens with 4 roommates. That's my life." "Why did you leave Kenya?" "My father died. There was nothing left for us there except debt and grief. America seemed like possibility." "And is it?" "Possibility." Zara looked at her hands. "It's hard. Harder than I imagined. But I'm still here. Still trying." Alexander walked closer, sat in the chair across from her, not beside her, maintaining space. "You remind me of someone." "Who?" "Myself. 10 years ago." If this story has you hooked, you're going to want to see where this goes. Hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started, and what happens next will leave you breathless. He told her then, not everything, but enough. How his father, Preston Drake, had built a modest import business that collapsed when Alexander was 17. How investors betrayed them, partners stole from them, supposed friends vanished. How his mother died of a stress-induced heart attack within a year. "I rebuilt everything from nothing," Alexander said, his voice empty of emotion. "I learned that trust is a currency I can't afford. That sentiment makes you vulnerable. That the only person you can rely on is yourself." "That sounds lonely," Zara said softly. His eyes met hers, and for just a second, the ice cracked. "It is." They talked through the night, about survival, about the weight of responsibility, about the exhaustion of never stopping because stopping meant losing. Zara told him about her sister Amara's dreams of becoming a doctor, about her mother's illness, about the guilt of being here while her family struggled there. As dawn painted the sky pink and gold, Alexander stood. "You should rest. The guest room is through there." "I should go home," Zara protested. "Stay. It wasn't quite a command, but close. Please. She saw something in his face then, vulnerability he probably didn't show anyone. So she nodded. Zara woke to afternoon sunlight and the smell of coffee. She found Alexander in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, tie discarded, looking somehow more dangerous in his casual state than in full armor. I didn't touch you, he said without preamble. I want you to know that. Last night was conversation. Nothing more. I know, Zara replied. And strangely she did. But the media won't believe that. He handed her his phone. The screen showed a news site. The headline made her stomach drop. Ice King chooses mystery woman. Who is Zara Thompson? Below it, photos. Her entering the tower with Alexander. Speculation about her background. Comments, thousands of them, most cruel. Who does she think she is? Obviously a gold digger. She's not even pretty. He'll throw her away like all the others. Zara set down the phone, hands shaking. I need to go. This will ruin everything. My jobs, my sister's reputation. Let me help you, Alexander said. She laughed bitterly. How? By making me more famous? No thank you, Mr. Drake. This was a mistake. Alexander, he corrected. And I mean it. Let me help. Your mother's treatment. How much do you need? Zara's pride flared. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's... He paused, searching for words. Call it payment for showing me something I'd forgotten. What's that? That not everyone in this city is performing. That honesty still exists. Before she could argue, his phone rang. His expression hardened as he answered. What? I see. How bad? Handle it. He hung up, jaw tight. You need to leave. Now. Use the service elevator. What's wrong? People I do business with, people who value my reputation as someone who doesn't form attachments. They've seen the photos. Having you here puts you in danger. What kind of business are you really in, Alexander? His eyes went cold again. The kind where sentiment gets people killed. Go home, Zara. Forget last night. Forget me. But now. The Ice King was back. Zara grabbed her things and fled. 2 weeks later, Zara's life had crumbled. She'd been fired from the seamstress shop. Mrs. Chen apologetically explaining that clients didn't want the Alexander Drake scandal girl touching their clothes. Her cleaning company let her go after a society client complained. Even the night school became hostile, classmates whispering, professors looking at her with judgment. Her sister Amara's scholarship was under review after someone leaked their connection to the Drake situation. And her mother's hospital bills were piling up. The surgery date was set for 6 weeks away, and Zara was $47,000 short. She sat in her tiny shared bedroom, scrolling through increasingly desperate job postings, when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Meet me. The Meridian Grand, service entrance. 10 p.m. She should delete it. Should block the number. Should run far away from Alexander Drake and his dangerous world. Instead, at 9:45 p.m., she found herself standing in the rain outside the hotel where everything had started. A black car pulled up. The back door opened. Get in. Alexander's voice came from the shadows. Zara's heart hammered as she slid into the leather seat beside him. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, jaw stubbled, expensive suit slightly rumpled. I told you to forget me, he said, not looking at her. You summoned me, Zara pointed out. Because I can't forget you. His voice was raw. I've tried. For 2 weeks I've tried. But everywhere I look, I see your face. When I close my eyes, I hear your voice. You've haunted me, Zara Thompson, and I don't know what to do about it. I lost everything, she whispered. My jobs, my sister's scholarship, my reputation. I know. I've been watching, trying to fix things from a distance. But everyone I pay off, every problem I solve, just makes things worse for you. My world is poison, and I've infected yours. The car drove through the rain-slicked streets. Neither spoke for a long moment. Finally, Zara asked, so why am I here? Because I'm a selfish bastard who needed to see you one more time before I do the right thing and disappear from your life forever. She turned to look at him properly. What if I don't want you to disappear? His head snapped toward her. Don't say that. Why not? You think you're the only one who can't stop thinking about that night? I replay our conversation every day. You showed me something too, Alexander. What? That success doesn't mean happiness. That power doesn't mean peace. That maybe the only way either of us survives is by not being alone anymore. The car stopped. They were at the Hudson River, city lights reflecting on dark water. Alexander's control cracked. He pulled her close, his forehead against hers, breathing hard. If you stay in my world, people will try to hurt you. To hurt what I care about. I have enemies, Zara. Dangerous ones. Then protect me, she breathed. Teach me to survive your world. Don't make decisions for me. Let me choose. Why would you choose this? Choose me. Because maybe we're both tired of being alone. He kissed her then, desperate and tender and full of things neither could say. When they finally broke apart, he was looking at her like she was something precious and terrifying. I'll give you 1 week, he said. 1 week to see what my life really looks like. After that, if you want to walk away, I'll pay for your mother's surgery, set up your sister's education, and never contact you again. But if I stay, then you're mine. And I protect what's mine. Loving this enemies to lovers billionaire romance? Hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me, would you choose love or safety? Because this story is about to get even more complicated. The week that followed was like living in a fever dream. Alexander moved her into a secured apartment. Not his penthouse, but a safe house in Tribeca with bulletproof windows and 24/7 security. He assigned her a bodyguard named Marcus, a silent mountain of a man who followed her everywhere. Is this really necessary? Zara asked on day 2. Yes, Alexander replied curtly. He'd been distant since their kiss, all business, as if regretting his moment of vulnerability. During the days he educated her. Not in romance, but in reality. He took her to his diamond warehouse in Red Hook, where men with guns guarded millions in uncut stones. Explained how he'd built his legitimate business as a front for something darker. Controlling the flow of conflict diamonds that governments pretended didn't exist. I don't sell to warlords, he told her in the warehouse's cold office. I buy from them. Flood the market with their stones, crash their prices, cut their funding. It's not legal. It's not clean. But it stops some wars. You're a criminal with a conscience, Zara observed. I'm a criminal. The conscience is negotiable. He introduced her to his inner circle. Not friends, he had none but associates. Marcus Chun, his head of security, who'd saved his life twice. Dmitry Volkov, who ran his shipping operations and spoke 7 languages. Isabel Moreau, his lawyer, who'd gotten him out of 3 federal investigations. They looked at Zara with varying degrees of curiosity and concern. She's the first one he's brought into this, Isabel told her over coffee. In 10 years, he's never let anyone see behind the curtain. Maybe that's the problem, Zara replied. Or maybe, Isabel said carefully, you're going to break his heart. And when Alexander Drake's heart breaks, people die. At night, Alexander would appear at her apartment, sometimes at midnight, sometimes at dawn. They'd talk for hours, about philosophy, about fear, about the weight they both carried. He told her about his nightmares, about waking up convinced he'd lost everything again. She told him about guilt, about the impossible choice between her own life and her family's needs. You make me want to be better, he admitted on the 5th night, standing by her window overlooking the city. That terrifies me. Why? Because wanting to be better means admitting I've been worse. It means having something to lose again. Zara stood beside him. Maybe losing everything taught you the wrong lesson. Maybe the point isn't to never care. Maybe it's to care better. He looked at her like she'd just revealed a universal truth he'd been blind to. On the 6th night, everything changed. Zara was reading in her apartment when Marcus burst through the door, gun drawn. We need to move. Now. What's happening? They know about you. Alexander's competitors. They're coming. Before she could ask who, the windows exploded. Glass rained down. Marcus threw himself over her as bullets tore through the apartment. Someone was screaming. She realized it was her. Go, Marcus roared. shoving her toward the back exit. They ran through the building's service corridors, Marcus firing behind them.
Lara s'y rend.
Her hands were bleeding from glass cuts. This couldn't be real. They burst into the parking garage. A car screeched up. Alexander behind the wheel, face wild with fear. Get in. Zara dove into the back seat. Marcus jumped in front. Alexander floored it as more shots rang out. Tires squealing as they rocketed out of the garage. What the hell happened? Alexander demanded, driving with one hand. Phone pressed to his ear with the other. Viktor Kozlov. Marcus replied grimly. He sent a team. Alexander's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. That son of a... He bit off the curse, eyes meeting Zara's in the rearview mirror. Are you hurt? Just scared, she managed. I'm taking you to the estate in Connecticut. You'll be safe there. What about you? His smile was cold and sharp. I'm going to war. The Drake estate sat on 20 acres of Connecticut woodland, a fortress disguised as a luxury home. Armed guards patrolled the grounds. Cameras covered every angle. Zara found herself in a gilded cage. Alexander stayed for an hour, pacing like a caged wolf, making calls in Russian and Mandarin, his voice deadly calm in a way that somehow made him more frightening. Before he left, he pulled Zara aside. Your week is up tomorrow. After what just happened, I'm giving you an out. Take it. I'll arrange for you to fly home to Kenya with your mother and sister. New identities, trust fund, complete break. You'll be safe. And you. I'll handle Victor. He crossed a line coming after you. That mistake will be his last. Zara grabbed his arm. Don't do this. Don't shut me out now. I'm protecting you. By sending me away? By making the decision alone. His jaw tightened. Better alone and alive than together and dead. That's not your choice to make, Alexander. It is when your life is at stake. They stared at each other, both breathing hard. I'm falling in love with you, Zara said quietly. I didn't plan it. I didn't want it. But I am. And you're falling for me too. So don't you dare send me away to keep me safe. That's not protection. That's cowardice. Alexander's control shattered. He kissed her fiercely, desperately, like a drowning man grabbing for air. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. If I lose you, then we lose together. But we don't run. He rested his forehead against hers, shaking. You're the bravest person I've ever met. Or the stupidest. Both probably. A ghost of a smile. Stay here. Let me handle Victor. When it's done, I'll come back. And then we figure out what this is. Together. Promise. I promise. He left at dawn. Zara watched his car disappear down the long driveway. Fear coiling in her stomach like a living thing. For 3 days she heard nothing. The guards wouldn't tell her anything. News reported a gang war in Brooklyn's Diamond District. Buildings burning. Bodies found in the river. On the third night, she was awakened by shouting. Gunfire. Zara's heart stopped. She ran to the window. Men in black tactical gear swarmed the grounds. Not Alexander's men, she knew their faces. Victor's team had found her. The bedroom door splintered open. A man entered, gun raised. Zara backed against the wall. Hands up. Please, she begged. I'm nobody. I don't know anything. You're what he loves, the man said in a thick Russian accent. That makes you leverage. A gunshot cracked. The man crumpled. Behind him, Marcus stood, weapon smoking. Can you shoot? Marcus asked, tossing her a pistol. No. Learn fast. The next 10 minutes were chaos. Marcus guided her through the house as gunfire echoed. They made it to the panic room, a steel-reinforced vault in the basement. As the door sealed, Zara finally broke, sobbing against the cold metal. He'll come, Marcus said quietly. Alexander always comes for what's his. 2 hours later, the all-clear sounded. The door opened. Alexander stood there, covered in blood. Not his, Zara prayed, eyes wild until they found her. Then relief so intense it buckled his knees. Zara. Her name was a prayer. She ran to him. He caught her, held her so tightly she couldn't breathe. It's over. Victor's dead. His organization scattered. You're safe. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Shut up, Zara said, pulling back to look at him. Just shut up and kiss me. He did. And in that kiss was everything they couldn't say, fear and relief and love and promise. When they finally broke apart, Alexander said, I'm done with that life. All of it. I'm liquidating the diamond operations, going fully legitimate. It'll take time, but I want out of the shadows. Why? Because you were right. I've been surviving instead of living. And I want to live, Zara. With you. If you'll have me. On one condition, she said. Anything. You help other people get out. People trapped in the life you're leaving. Give them the same chance you're taking. Alexander smiled. Truly smiled. Something warm and real. Deal. If you're loving this transformation from ruthless to redeemed, you won't want to miss what happens next. Subscribe now because the best part of this story is still coming. 6 months later. The Thompson Foundation launched on a crisp autumn day. The converted warehouse in Brooklyn would serve as a community center, offering job training, legal services, and support for immigrants building new lives. Zara stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, her mother and Jerry beside her in a wheelchair. The surgery had been successful, and she was recovering well. Her sister Amara was there too, fresh from her first semester at Columbia on a full scholarship. And Alexander, who'd funded everything but insisted Zara's name be on the building, stood slightly apart, watching her with quiet pride. The press was there, of course. The narrative had shifted from scandal to fairy tale, from seamstress to philanthropist, Zara Thompson's remarkable journey. But Zara knew the truth was more complicated. Love hadn't fixed everything. Alexander still had nightmares. She still struggled with imposter syndrome. They fought about his controlling tendencies, her stubborn independence. Blending their worlds was messy and difficult. But they chose it. Every day. That evening, in Alexander's penthouse, which had slowly become their penthouse, he pulled out a small velvet box. I know it's fast, he said, dropping to one knee. I know we have so much to work through. But I also know that every day without you feels empty. Zara Thompson, will you marry me and continue making me a better man than I deserve to be? The ring was simple. A single diamond, ethically sourced, he assured her with a small smile. Yes, Zara said, pulling him up to kiss him. But I'm not marrying you to make you better. I'm marrying you because even at your worst you chose to change. That's the man I love. 1 year later. The wedding was small, just close friends and family. Zara wore a dress she'd designed herself, incorporating both Kenyan and American elements. Alexander wore his only relaxed smile, the one reserved just for her. As they exchanged vows in the garden of the Connecticut estate, now transformed from fortress to home, Zara reflected on the impossible journey that had brought her here. I promise, she said, voice steady, to see you. Not the empire, not the reputation, not the past mistakes, just you. And to love that person, exactly as he is, while we both become who we're meant to be. Alexander's vows were simpler. I promise to deserve you. Every single day. Their first dance was to a song Amara had chosen. Something about second chances and new beginnings. Do you ever regret it? Alexander asked, holding her close. That night at the gala changed everything. Sometimes I wonder if you'd be happier if I'd never chosen you. Zara thought about it honestly. About the fear, the danger, the complete upheaval of her carefully planned life. About the impossible love that had bloomed in the cracks of their broken places. No regrets, she said finally. You didn't ruin my life, Alexander. You woke it up. He pulled her closer, and she felt him smile against her hair. Then let's spend the rest of it wide awake. And they did. Epilogue 3 years later. The penthouse was filled with the sound of laughter. Alexander sat on the floor covered in stickers, while their 2-year-old daughter Maya decorated his face with serious concentration. You're very patient, Zara observed from the doorway, suppressing a smile. I've negotiated international diamond deals, Alexander replied gravely. This is significantly more challenging. Maya giggled, adding another sticker to his forehead. The Thompson Foundation had expanded to 5 cities. Alexander's company, now fully legitimate, was known for ethical practices and employee ownership. They still navigated complicated waters, His past occasionally surfaced. Her position as a black woman in elite spaces brought constant microaggressions. But they navigated together. I got the call, Zara said. The UN wants me to speak at the Summit on Refugee Integration. Alexander stood, careful not to dislodge Maya, who'd climbed onto his shoulders. You'll be brilliant. You're not worried? 3 weeks in Geneva. I'm terrified, he admitted. But not of you leaving. Of you coming back and realizing you've outgrown this life. Zara crossed to him, stood on tiptoe to kiss him despite their giggling daughter between them. I chose this life. I chose you. That doesn't change just because I grow. Promise. Every single day. Later, after Maya was asleep, they stood on the balcony overlooking the city that had brought them together. Alexander's arm around Zara's waist, her head on his shoulder. Do you think Maya will understand someday? He asked quietly. About who I was. What I did. I think, Zara said carefully, she'll understand that people can change. That love can transform. That her father chose to be better and built a life worth living. Because of you. With me, she corrected. There's a difference. The city sparkled below them. A million lights, a million stories, a million people fighting their own battles. Thank you, Alexander said suddenly. For what? For seeing past the ice. For believing I could be more than my worst moments. For loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. Zara smiled up at him. Thank you for choosing me. In that ballroom, in that life, you could have had anyone. And you chose the seamstress in the corner. Best decision I ever made. They stood there as the night deepened, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, proving that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with a single choice. A choice to see beyond the surface. A choice to risk despite the danger. A choice to love despite the odds. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the person who changes your life is the one you were always meant to find. Did this story of transformation, danger, and unlikely love move you? Drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Would you have chosen love over safety? Hit that like button if you believe people can truly change. And subscribe because we've got more stories where broken souls find their way home. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.